Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Alzali. I'm co-hosting with Bernie today.
Good
Just
afternoon.
admitting. Hi there. I'm just admitting everybody. Thank you for waiting patiently. A few of you have been here for quite a few minutes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi, it's good to see you all. Feel free to either have your video on or off. I know it's nice to see some faces when we're talking into the void, and please stay muted while Prof Bernie is doing a presentation on our first book for BSN Read. So we are very excited to have you all here. This has been in the making for quite some while. We've wanted to get this together, talk about books, learn some of the key points from these books. I'm sure those of you who know Professor Bernie knows that he's an avid reader. He reads, I don't know if he has to guess how many books he's read in his life. I don't think there's a library big enough. So we'll be all learning from Professor Bernie today. And let me just check the time. We're so happy to have you all here. If you've just joined, my name is Alzali. I'm at BSN International in Cape Town. If you want to, you can let us know where you're from in the chat. That'll be nice to see where you're all from. We love to stay connected globally with our students, our alumni, and basically anybody who's interested in learning and growing. That's what we're doing today. Professor Bernie, I'm going to hand over to you, and you can start. We can see your screen. I'm not sure if... Oh, I see an old friend, Johan Poot from Holland. How are you?
Hello. Good afternoon. I'm fine.
It's good
Thank
to
you very
see.
much.
How are
It's
you?
good to see you.
Thanks. Thanks. Good to see you too.
I see there's quite a number of people still joining. We could wait a while.
Okay.
I see there's some in the waiting room.
I'm letting them all in.
Yeah, it's great. I see there's quite a number of our students in the room. Walter Heinzel. Wow, great, the great Sir Walter Heinzel. Yeah, great to see you in the room, to have you in the room. Right. It's quite an exciting sort of venture for us. We didn't know really what the reaction is going to be. There was quite a number of people who registered, and I think they will join us as we go along. The whole idea is it's just to introduce you to a book of some kind, because I have noticed with my interaction with the students that students struggle to read and they do not always know where to start reading. Now, once you read a book, very soon it latched on to another book and then another one and then another one. And if you buy books, especially at Amazon or any bookstore, they would remind you that, well, hi, Bernie, last time you bought this book. Next is a number of books people bought with the same sort of title, and that helps you a lot. So hopefully we are going to enjoy this session. It's not meant to be very, very long. It's just an introduction to a book and maybe some little discussion thereof. So let us move on. I think we're quite a number now, over 30 people in the room. We can move on to our next slide. I just love books. Books is very important, especially if you do an MBA or a doctorate, most of you will know that I would tell the students, read, read, and read. That would be the sort of saving grace for you in doing these courses. Right, so the book I am introducing you today is Nexus by Yuval Noah Harari. I will show the book in a while. But the other books that sort of links up with Nexus is The Coming Wave by Mustafa Suleyman, I think AI, Power, and the 21st Century Greatest Dilemma. A fantastic book, and it's all about the anthropology of technology. Why do some people, or why do people latch onto certain technologies and others not? The next book is the same sort of topic, The Technology Trap, Capital, Labor, and Power in the Age of Automation, by Benedikt Frey, I think just as important. So if you read Nexus and you've worked that through, it's over 490 pages, a book, you could surely try these books. They are just as interesting. So I said that we were going to discuss Harari's book Nexus, A Brief History of Information Networks from the Stone Age to AI. His first book I've read, obviously he's written more than just these two books. A Brief History of Humankind absolutely made me sort of buy his book Nexus, because he's got such an easy style of writing and with such detail. It is really a pleasure to read his stuff. So if you're into information networks, and you would know that this is my main topic, or my interest is the anthropology of technology and the information management, or the digital economy and everything digital and obvious. In this book, there's a whole lot of discussion about how networks has changed through the ages to what we have today in terms of artificial intelligence. So Nexus, the book, 492 pages, luscious reading, especially if it's winter. Johan, you're in summer now in the Netherlands, so probably you won't be reading any books. You're out in the sun. So 492 pages. Part one is all about human networks and his definition of information. What is information? Very interesting departure point, and maybe I'll just chat a little bit about it. And then he's got a lot of stories, unlimited connection. He's got narratives from everywhere, examples from ages back, new technologies to what we have today. Documents the bite of the paper tigers, errors, the fantasy of infallibility. I think a very important discussion at the end of the day. The information, how true is the information? And an obvious, within the first part, the human networks, he would talk about the controls there were in terms of information in institutions like universities, like the judicial systems, for instance, churches that could control truth, because the big question today is, what is truth? And this is a very nice discussion within his book. Decisions, a brief history of democracy and totalitarianism. I think a very important part, because he feels very strong that democracy is being threatened by artificial intelligence. The third part is just about that. So then inorganic network would be the old way we communicated, person to person, and truth was transferred through dialogue, through conversations, through writing materials, and so on. And then how computers are different from the printing presses. And there's a beautiful little part in the book where he discussed the difference between Gutenberg, the first press, and what we have today in artificial intelligence. Presses, they closed down after 8 hours of work. Artificial intelligence is binary, and artificial intelligence never sleep. People say Netflix doesn't sleep. Spotify doesn't sleep. Relentless, the network is always on. And fallible, the network is often wrong. This second session is very interesting in the sense that he feels strong that all new technology is not necessarily good for humankind. And he will have a very good discussion thereof. And his big question would be, who is controlling AI, artificial intelligence? And what mechanisms do we have in place to control AI and show AI fallible, not necessarily right? And we know by now that AI is not always right, that we do have something like what our friend Trump calls fake news. So, and the third part is all about computer politics. And here it's about who is going to be in power at the end of the day. Is it technology companies? For sure. And the United States would have security power. They could fly anywhere and do just what they want. The economic power is divided between Asia, Europe, and the United States, and even more now with the trade war. So it's all about, can we still hold a conversation? And how are we going to converse if we have artificial intelligence doing everything? What is interesting, he would discuss the whole issue about truth, and he would ask the question, what truth? The Californian truth, or the Silicon Valley truth, or whose truth? And depending on where you come from, your context, it will be truth. And that is the dilemma we have in our communication process. Totalitarianism, all power to the algorithms. And that is why he says that democracies are going to disappear because of AI. And the power of algorithms. How are you going to change algorithms? The Silicon Curtain, global empire or global split. Now, that is all a debate these days. What is going to happen? Are the technologies companies going to have the power and the only power and the AI power, or what is going to happen? So Nexus, the title, an important connection between the parts of a system or a group of things. Steve Jobs used to talk about connecting the dots. That is what Nexus actually means. And through the book, he's trying to connect the dots to try and understand how information systems has shifted from an organic to an inorganic type of information system, which it sounds to me he is not always at ease with. So the reaction to his book, Mustafa Suleyman would say that's right. Harari has a unique ability to unite both history's finest details and its grandest megatrends in a single view. This deeply important book comes at a critical time as we think through the applications of artificial intelligence. So everything in this book is about artificial intelligence and tries to evoke us to think about artificial intelligence, its applications, how it would change life, how it would change business, how it will change politics. Stephen Frey wrote tremendous thought-provoking and so very well reasoned. Harari gives us a vision of a rapid approaching future that is at one and the same time thrilling and chilling. If there is one book that I would urge everyone to read, our political, corporate, and cultural readers must especially read, is Nexus. So for our time, this book is really spot on and a must read. But let me give you some sort of indication of some references to from the book. We're on the verge of an ecological collapse caused by the misuse of our own power. We are also busy creating new technologies like artificial intelligence that have the potential to escape our control and enslave and annihilate us. Yet instead of our species uniting to deal with these existential challenges, international tensions are rising, global cooperation is becoming more difficult, countries are stockpiling doomsday's weapons, and a new world war does not seem to be impossible. If we sapiens are so wise, why are we so self-destructive? This is really an incredible sort of insight from Harari in terms of what is ahead of us in terms of the future. So from the book, once again, he says a naive, let me just go back, a naive view of information is that information leads to truth, and truth leads to wisdom and power. He said that's a very traditional way of thinking. He would say a populist view of information would be information is power. And that is why you will have an Elon Musk with his X, and you will have Donald Trump with his truth and whatever systems he's got in place. It's all about data and the power of having all these connections. And the fact that a perception people have about truth, that everything you receive from social media or from the internet is necessary truth. So large-scale information networks from ancient kingdoms to present-day states have relied on both myth makers and bureaucrats. Now, he says information started with myth makers and bureaucrats. In fact, if you go to the French word of for bureaucrats, it means information filed. It seems to me we've still got a lot of organizations with information filed on shelves, or these days in computers. Through ages, erroneous information and the benefits and drawbacks of maintaining self-correction mechanisms, such as independent courts or peer-reviewed journals. So the universities and institutions played a very important role in this self-control mechanisms and also independent courts. So from the book part 2, building on historical part, the second part focus on inorganic network, examines the new information network that's creating today, focusing on political implications of AI. And more there's a debate going on how political is artificial intelligence. Part 2 argues that we are creating an entirely new kind of information network without pausing to reckon with its implications. Silicon chips can create spies that never sleep, financiers that never forget, and despots that never die. How will this change society, economics, and politics? And this is the question from the book in part 2. Part 3, the question arises, how will democracies deal with inorganic network? How, for example, can flesh and blood politicians make financial decisions if the financial system is increasingly controlled by AI and the very meaning of money becomes to depend on inscrutable algorithms? And this is the major thought line for part 3. How can democracies maintain conversations without knowing whether they are talking to a chatbot? The ultimate question will be, how will new information networks influence the balance of power between democratic and totalitarian societies? Will AI tilt the balance decisively in favor of one camp? Or will the world split into hostile blocks whose rivalry make all of us pray for an out-of-control artificial intelligence? Or can we unite in defense of our common interest? A very interesting sort of debate in the book. Where are we really going to? And now everybody would know, if you know who you are, if you know where you're going to, most of your trouble is solved. But it seems to me it's getting more complex, especially with artificial intelligence and the sort of creation of agents in your pocket that will determine decisions. Now, this is really a worthwhile book to read. A non-conscious algorithm can have a goal of making more people spend more time on Facebook. That algorithm can then decide to deliberately spread outrageous conspiracy theories, and this helps it to helps it to achieve its goal. Algorithms does not desire, does not feel joy, does not feel sad when engagement time goes down. We can agree that the terms like decided, lied, and pretend only apply to conscious entities. And this is the reality as we know. Now, We know that NVIDIA is talking of a conscious AI and emotive AI, and we still have to see how that is going to play out. Some questions to think about, and I think very important for us all to think about: should we use algorithms and machine learning as guidelines to make meaningful decisions? How should we use AI in business and in academia? It's becoming a huge issue and a discussion point. Should we use AI to make decisions about people? What are your thoughts on AI and politics? Is democracies under threat? And how are we going to control algorithms and AI? Now, you will all know at Business School Netherlands, we start with a problem statement and asking the right questions, and surely these questions would evoke some thoughts in your mind. The paradox we have today is that we need to be in control, but we need AI to grow fast, or otherwise die slowly. And somewhere we are going to need a balance between control and our control over networks, information networks, and data, and then growth at the end of the day. So this is very much sort of some thoughts on Nexus, the book. So maybe I don't know, Azalea, if there is any questions. Thank you for those who joined us and who listened in to an introduction to the book. It's obvious that we won't be able to discuss all of this in a half an hour or so.
Professor Bernie, thank you very much. So we'll invite everybody, if you have questions, to either put your hand up, then we can unmute you, or put your question in the chat. I just saw one question from Augustina so far. When you were talking about the authors, she was asking, and I'm not sure if she's talking about Harari, if he is the same author who also wrote about operations. I'm not sure if you know what Harari also covers in all of his books. But yeah, that's the only question I have so far. Let's see if anybody else puts a question up or puts their hand up, we can unmute.
I don't think Harari has written specific about operations, but I think at the end of the day, artificial intelligence and the way we make our decisions will have an influence on operations. If you go to YouTube and Amazon and how Amazon is using artificial intelligence, it will blow your mind away. I wish we had the time to watch the video clip.
Thank you, Bernie. I'm not sure, Augustina, if you're here.
Yes, hi, good afternoon, I'm here. I did hear that, so thanks. And I have maybe not a question, I think it's quite an interesting topic. You know, what I really find very interesting, or I would say even controversial, and sometimes also a limited memory span for humanity. We don't seem to learn from mistakes we make. We make them, and then maybe years later we come back and try to pass that on as evolution. So this ties back to what was done with globalization, and I could remember back then in the 80s and 90s, I would say, or early 2000s. when globalization was being pushed as, the right thing and evolution, and how that would make growth, again, that word is just thrown around normally. And we're at it again. I mean, years down the line, globalization has revealed to be a disaster. And AI is following the same trend. We seem to be promoting it. And I really do like the paradox of take control, but also grow fast or die. We seem to be trying, as again, to push the human frontiers, to I would say even beyond the limits. And AI, we're told, is going to come and help us and help humanity. But I'm wondering at what point we realize, and I do like the fact that Professor Harari did write this book, because those hard questions are not being asked or even being contemplated by anyone. We see that already in business. AI has wiped out so many roles, and it is going to wipe out a lot of roles. But at what point do we then say enough is enough, and maybe put contingency measures in place to prevent even humanity itself wiping out humanity? Thank you.
Right, thank you for that comment. I think that is why we do these type of exercises to evoke thought. And so if we don't read these books, probably we will not ask the questions, and it would come as a surprise. And I think for business people, it is better not to have surprises. We have seen, how disruptive surprises could be in the marketplace today. I see there's a number of questions here. Can we trust AI to make decisions that affect our lives? Obvious, there's a lot of AI that will have an effect on your life. The most difficult thing is, at the end of the day, is to decide whether you're going to follow it or not. We talk about the digital divide we have, and maybe those countries or communities that do not have access to these technologies are going to be better off. I don't know. But I will be very cautious, for AI to sort of let me make decisions about people and people's lives. That would really not be ethical from my point of view. How far is BSN International with with AI implementation and control? Well, we do have control mechanisms, and we do know when students are using artificial intelligence excessively. It's very easy to trace. We've got software. Obvious, the academic institutions are grappling with this whole issue. How should AI be used in academia? And the question still arises, what is truth and how can we control it? That is why we don't accept Wikipedia as a reference, because it's not verified. Is it verified? If it's verified, it probably could be used. But once again, referencing will determine that. What is your opinion about making the use of AI a mandatory part of study programs? Well, I think it depends on how you use AI. If it's a topic that you're not familiar with and you want to know more about the topic as a departure point, I think I know of a number of students who really benefited thereof. who's in total different industries, and now all of a sudden in business sciences, and they need to catch up on all the different topics of business science, and then they make use of AI. The only problem would be if you copy and paste it as if it is your work. There must be some other reference, and the software we have at BSN to our availability tells us the percentage of AI used. And obvious, there's only a limited percentage we allow in terms of plagiarism. I think it's 5% or something. So yeah, we're not quite there yet. Telling students make use of it and benefit thereof. In future, information would be everywhere. And the thoughts is how do you apply the information? And the application would be the most important part in terms of innovation and creative thought. And that's for the future. But at this stage, well, I rather suggest you don't copy and paste AI because we will trace it. Right. More questions?
I don't see any more questions right now, but I do want to tell everybody, is there somebody else?
Yes, I would like to also
Okay.
say,
Yes, Augustina.
well, yeah, Professor Benny, I used to love your classes. I was with Ikeja 48. I don't know if you remember me. I recently read that there was a recent MIT study that says that the AI, and I think that's also quite literally logical to see. AI renders, reduces critical thinking, memory, and brain activity. And of course, if you don't get your brain to work and you have to ask an intelligent, I would say, machine to carry out any kind of task, right? Because everything becomes so easy. We make it so easy. All you need is a prompt. Then what's the use? We're creating human beings who are going to be practically incapable of reasoning at some point. Of course, all of this is going to occur slowly, not, it's not immediate, but we already see the effects, and the study from MIT does show this. And I'm wondering, right, if the academic community, as well as, of course, I don't count on governments to do anything, but really we have the academic community, and who I respect the most and whom I think can play an important role. What is the point is, what is the academic community doing to ensure that somebody does see sense in all of this and probably counter what the big tech are doing?
Yeah. Yeah, all I can tell you is I'm on a international committee discussing all of this, but it's a very slow process to try and understand how we're going to do this in future. I really have the feeling that in future we're going to have a lot of technology, but to understand what the technology is going to give us, we will need individuals like way back in the past, people with insight, people with critical thinking, and you will sit at their feet and they would sort of guide you in your process thought, and Augustino, we are really, I am noticing it with the students already, a lack of reasoning, a lack of critical thinking, because, information is available everywhere, and you could just copy and paste, and that is a real problem. I even see in this assessment of students' work that students just don't know what critical thinking is about. And maybe we should start our lectures with critical thinking and how we go about critical thinking. I said there's a hand up, Edom.
Yeah, I will ask him to unmute. Edom, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Professor, for very good dive into the book. I just want to ask, what your thoughts are relating to human adaptations, taking into consideration how the human brain, laws, and ethics are struggling to keep pace with technological change.
Yeah, the adoption cycle of technology is a very interesting thing. You know, why did people adopt to the mobile phone? It's virtually a vertical line, you know, and why certain other technologies? There's a beautiful example of a first car driving into a village, and all the people ran into their homes and actually threw the car with stones. For what reason? It is very interesting because the car industry threatened the horse industry and everything relating to horses. So, you know, people will latch onto technologies that benefit them. So if there is a benefit and if there is a value, they will latch onto it. If there's no value and if there's no need, they will not adapt to that technology. The other thing that makes it also difficult, if it's too complex, and you know, people will just say, no, I don't like it. It's threatening. I'm not going to use it. And then you need a generation to die out before you get change. And that has happened through the years. If you just think about the automation of the mills in London, Harari refers to it. You know, it was productive. It made money for the owners, but the workers burnt it down because they saw a threat in their jobs, losing their jobs. Now, but the only problem is today, things are happening so fast and so quick, and it happens, and then after a while, people realize that, wow, they didn't know about these changes. You know, so speed is one of the problems for adoption of technologies. And what is going to happen? You're going to get the people that sort of have the skills for these new technologies and the have-nots. And we're going to have a divide, like we have so many other divides in health, in knowledge, in rich, poor divide, for instance. But somehow or I really feel at a stage there will be a protest or a storm of the Bastille, if you want to call it. You know, people protesting against these technologies, taking away their livelihood. Because who's going to look after all the people? You know, I just think in terms of Nigeria, where there are 230 million people. Wow. You know, where are the jobs going to come from? So it brings me to our next book I would like to talk about next time around, A World Without Jobs. And that would be just as interesting. And I want to combine it with a new book I've read, When Machines Becomes Your Customers. So that would be very interesting. Augustina, I see your hand is up, and I think then we have been chatting along for 45 minutes and it's too long. Augustina?
Yes, I don't know. Are we rounding up? I know that it's an hour session, but I just wanted to comment on the last thing you said. So where the jobs will go. And that just brings me to, I did read I think it's Meta that it's called now. So they are 10-year plan. Not sure if anybody's seen that. Meta's 10-year plan explains quite clearly what it is that they're going to be doing, and most of them have been already done. So the first year, the next 5 years, and what's coming in the next 5 years. And quite, I would say frighteningly, there is also the plan to integrate, human and their chips into the human body. So where you match the machine to the physical human being. And that also brings me to the question, with all the jobs being lost, we see that across Europe. Africa, of course, is known, and you just touched about Nigeria. I'm originally Nigerian. 250 million people, growing by the year. So with all this that's happening, and if we have machines, your question was also one I was asking. Who's going to take care of the people, because I don't think that they really care about the people. What they care about is the business and money. But my question would be, who are the customers, which ties into the book. So I'm looking forward to your next book reading, where machine is your customer, because I've always asked myself, right, who are they going to sell all these things to if people themselves cannot afford these technologies or pay for these features that they're bringing out and all these new products and all whatnot. So that's what I just wanted to say.
Yeah. Well, it becomes very expensive, but as the technology is adopted, it becomes cheaper. So, that's the whole diffusion of technology and the adoption of technology theories. At the end of the day, we must remember we're also working with generations. And the younger generation really latch onto everything technology much easier. Now, I recall some time back, Augustina, I used to say in classes, teach your kids to code. Now, they don't need codes because
exactly.
because AI is doing it. So for a short while, the coding people made a lot of money, and now artificial intelligence is doing it. You see how disruptive the technology has become, that it makes it so difficult to decide where you're going to play in terms of business, and what skills do you need, to sort of play right up there, and I just don't know whether we have the energy for it. I can see that a lot of new things. I'm reading about a lot of the students in class. It's the first time they would probably hear about it, and then it is technologies that exist for a long time, so, and every day we have artificial intelligence apps that's improving because of machine learning. And things are changing so quickly, So very soon, I thought the other day, maybe I've got to go to a little far off town somewhere in the desert, and forget about all these technologies and just live as life. So, well, from my side, thank you for those of you who joined. Hopefully next time, bring along some friends. We are going to talk about the world of a world without work the next time, and when machines become customers. And keep on reading. That's what we stand for at BSN, is to read, constantly read, infinity. Right.
Thank you, Professor Bernie. I hope everybody got that message from the name of this recurring meeting, Read Infinity. We don't want to stop reading, and we want to inspire our students, our alumni, and everybody out there to keep reading. These ideas are huge, and we might feel like, why are we talking about this? We're not the decision makers, but I think it's really important for us to talk about it and spread the awareness. And when the day comes, we will say yes or no when we have to make decisions about these things. So thank you everybody for joining us. If you've missed parts of today, or if you couldn't hear everything, we are also putting this whole session on our YouTube channel, so go have a look. I put the books for you guys. I put links in the chat if you would like to get the book. I think they sell the ebooks and the actual hard copies. If you want to get a hold of Nexus or any of the related books. So thank you very much for being here. We're going to end this session and we'll see you in a month. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Baie dankie.